Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good, beautiful morning. The sun is out. My kid didn't come home. What did we have here? What was I just watching? I feel like this is something important to share. I'm not going to focus on it though, but this is definitely something important to share. Tyrrell Blackstar last night does not show up on my tube feed consistently. I'm not on the bell that shows me everything because he posts a lot. But there is a special report. Deep quake strikes the central USA, 210 kilometers deep. I think that's very important with the things that are going on right now because you might not, hello, good morning, you might not be aware of ancient volcanoes near you. So today's good morning, good morning. There was a really deep earthquake that struck in Oklahoma. So that's very important. That's not very far from me. So life is there for the taking or for the refusing. I think that people need to be aware of that. And that's Tyrrell Blackstar, Terral. It just popped up in my tube feed because I think that I was supposed to know that because Dutch is having a really hard time getting his videos uploaded. So our proverb for the day is preserve sound judgment and discernment. Do not let them out of your sight. Then you will go on your way in safety and your foot will not stumble. It's Proverbs 3:21 and 23. So we are to preserve the discernment and judgment. We know people by their fruits. We know the way they act. We can see, we can use our discernment. We all have that built-in GPS, that built-in warning system. Thank you, Spirit, for that, right? For guidance, comfort, all of that for us. It was a gift, a beautiful gift since birth. We know we can feel things, especially as empaths. So October 7th, for today, is depending on our higher power. How about that? Basic text, page 71. As recovering addicts, we find that we're still dependent, but our dependence has shifted from the things around us to a loving creator and the inner strength that we get in relationship with the spirit within us. Divine, beautiful spirit. Thank you so much for the like. For many addicts, rebelliousness is second nature. We didn't want to depend on anyone or anything, especially not on God. The beauty of using, we thought, was what gave us the power to be and feel anything we wanted all by ourselves. We didn't need anybody. But the price we paid for this illusory freedom was a dependence beyond our worst nightmares. Rather than freeing us, using enslaved us. When we came to NA, we learned that dependence on a higher power didn't have to mean what we may have thought it meant. Yes, if we wanted to be restored to sanity, we would need to tap a power greater than ourselves. However, we could choose our own concept of this higher power. We could even make one up. Dependence on a higher power would not limit us, we discovered. It would free us. The power we find in recovery is the power we lacked on our own. It is the love we're afraid to depend on others for. It is the sense of personal direction. We never had guidance. The guidance we couldn't humble ourselves to ask for or trust others to give. It is all these things, and it is our own. Today, we're grateful to have a higher power to depend on. So just for today, we will depend on the love and inner strength we draw from our higher power of our own understanding. So whatever it is you're struggling with, I realized that the new subscribers I got the other day, that I was like so excited because I got 4. came from the earthquake and the biblical timeline breakdown that I did. It's had like 25 views. And so it must be the title that when people punch in earthquakes or something, I'm not sure, and biblical or I don't know, but they start following me and then they realize that I'm not just studying earthquakes in the Bible, and then they unsubscribe. It's kind of funny to me. They unsubscribed right after they saw me doing cards. So it's whatever. They're free to go. Their loss, right? Their loss. Not mine, not mine. If they want to be closed-minded, that's on them. I do find it funny that last night I did the moon magic video, and it was talking about electronics and the blue light and stuff from our phones. And it struck me too, because I listen to my phone before bed. And I was like, oh, interesting. So we have all these people who have trouble sleeping, right? But how many have their phone in their hand instead of a book, or instead of falling asleep naturally, or the television, or all the lights from electronics? So when I told my mom about it this morning, who doesn't read paper books anymore, she reads her Kindle. So she lays in bed and is either on her Kindle or on the iPad or her phone. And of course, she's like, no, I think that's just, she always rejects anything I say. She was like, no, I think a lot of it has to do with environmental issues. If I can't sleep, it's usually because I said, you don't think that a society that has been programmed to be dependent on these devices, that now has sleeping issues and all of this stuff that was not here 100 years ago, you don't think it has anything to do with the electronics? And I end up having to walk away from the conversation because she just wants to argue with everything I say. I promise you. It's unbelievable. So our 24 hours in a day. AA thought for the day. Do I put too much reliance on any one member of the group? That is, do I make a 10 God out of some one person? Do I set that person on a pedestal? If I do, I'm building my house on sand. All AA members have clay feet. They are all only one drink away from a drunk, no matter how long they have been in AA. This has been proved to be true more than once. See, I disagree with some of that. I have a real problem with absolutes. Did I have a glass of wine last night? I did. Do I do it every day? No. Do I have 5? No, I don't. So I think that once you get your inside right, and once you can heal all of your trauma and the things that made you want to drink in excess and all of that stuff, then you can have a drink. It's all about self-control. When you learn how to control yourself, then you can have a glass of wine. I don't work well with absolutes. Like, I could never have chocolate again. No. Do I still have a piece of chocolate if I want? Yes, I do. But I don't need a whole bag. This has been proved to be true more than once. It's not fair to any member to be singled out as a leader in AA or in anything, and to always quote the member on the AA program. If that person should fail, where would we be? Can we afford to be tipped over by the failure of our ideal? So our meditation is, we must always remember that we are weak, but that our Creator is strong. Our higher power knows all about our weaknesses. Here's every cry for mercy, every sign of weakness, every plea for help, every sorrow over failure, every weakness felt and expressed. We only fail when we trust too much to our own strength. We do not feel bad about our weaknesses. When you are weak is when our higher power is strong to help us. Trust the divine enough, and your weakness will not matter. The divine is always strong to save, always. Yes, yes, balance. Yes, yes. I just got a new, is that a yin yang symbol? Yes, it is. I just got a new mouse pad that has a yin yang on it. I pray that I may learn. Here's our prayer. We pray that we may learn to lean on our higher power strength, and we pray that we may know that our weakness is our higher power's opportunity to strengthen us. So sometimes we're debilitated and we're laid down and made to rest. Sometimes when we won't rest and we just go, sometimes we get made to lay down. That's what I've said over and over. When I get too ambitious, absolutely. Ooh, tomorrow's loving our inner child. Ooh, I can't wait for that. In the Woman's Book of Courage. And every time I flip that book up, and it smells so good, like incense. Page 28. My guy's birthday's coming up on the 28th. A woman has the courage to love and be loved. Helen Keller, very fine person to listen to. Amazing, amazing, very gifted, highly gifted, but debilitated in many aspects, deaf, blind, and mute. As selfishness and complaint pervert and cloud the mind, so love with its joy clears and sharpens the vision. Nothing takes more courage than to open ourselves to the risks inherent in loving. To love is to be available and accessible to another. Oh yeah, I didn't either. I had to go for all my treatment. You know, they made us go every single day for every time I was in treatment. And it's program. Is it a great program and does it work for many? Absolutely, it does. But when you're not a type of person to work with absolutes, like I still smoke CBD and I still use healing medicines from Mother Earth. I got a number from Chicago. I'm not answering that. I don't do that. I'm not playing games with these people anymore. I don't even want that sucker by me. It is on ringer off. People don't disturb me. But when you're not, it's really hard when you still use healing medicines for anxiety and you're off man-made pills to be very careful what you say in those rooms, because they're in that mindset that if you smoke pot, you're not clean. And how many clean days do you have? It's not like that. If I smoke, that doesn't mean I'm not clean. I've got 4 years and 10 months opiate free. That is something worth celebrating. That is something to be proud of. So you can't tell me that I'm not clean because I had a glass of wine and I use it for anxiety. Yes, absolutely. You can do this stuff. Yes. And it's a medicine. As long as it's not pumped with chemicals and tampered with. Thank you so much. I'm very proud of me because I was a hardcore opiate. I was an everything addict. I wanted more of whatever you got just so I wouldn't feel. And so for them to say, even my sponsor was like, how much clean time do you have? And I was like, I still smoke weed. And she was like, oh, then you're not clean. And I was like, I can feel their energy. Oh yeah, absolutely. Polysubstance abuse. Absolutely. That's in all my files from the psych deck. I know. And so for them to make me feel like I'm not doing good because I still smoke, well, they're still hooked on man-made pills and they're still suffering. So who's actually doing better? It's not even like that. I don't see it like that anymore. It's not in all black and white terms. So let's see what we got here. And what do we do when we're vulnerable to the pain involved? If we have experienced ugly or hurtful circumstances, such as incest or emotional abandonment, under the guise of love, we're especially wary of love. Absolutely, we are. That creates some serious confliction. Loving, at least, giving to and caring for others is one of the best things women have had the courage to do best. Excuse me, but we've been able to love ourselves. But have we been able to love ourselves or allow others to love us? Feeling lovable springs from a healed inner child who feels she is worthy of love. Many of these pages will deal with nurturing the wounded little girl inside ourselves. So we can give, or boy, if you're a guy watching this, just your wounded inner child. So we can give and accept love in healthy ways. As we have the courage to heal our past by looking back and inward, an often painful process, we can find ways to love ourselves and to truly love others. It is our right and responsibility, as well as our joy, to love and be loved. Absolutely, they are. It is our right and responsibility, as well as our joy, to love and be loved. Yes, I wasn't on Adderall, but painkillers, anxiety meds, mood stabilizers, anti-inflammatory for my knee. When I was overweight, I really had knee problems. I don't have those problems anymore. Isn't that amazing? How losing weight took the pressure off of those things. Yes, best thing I ever could have done. So the fact that I've almost got 1 year off of those man-made psychotropics and all of that icky stuff, I'd say I'm pretty good, and it's not their job to judge whether I'm clean or not. So, in the language of letting go, I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much. The language of letting go in our metamorphosis here, October 7th is letting go. And it's like naive, naivete. It looks like it's French, Naivete, naivete. We can be loving, trusting people, and still not allow ourselves to be used or abused. Very important there. We don't have to let people do whatever they want to us. Not all requests are legitimate. Not all requests require a yes. So I'm going to highlight that. We don't have to be used or abused. We do not have to subject ourselves to that. Good morning. Good morning. Life may test us. People may seek out our weak spots. We may see a common denominator to the limits that are being tested in our life. If we have a weak spot in one area, we may find ourselves tested repeatedly in that area by family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors, even NA and AA. Life, people, our higher power, and the universe may be trying to teach us something specific, is trying to teach us something specific. When we learn the lesson, we find that problems with that area dwindle. The boundary has been set, the power has been owned. For now, the lesson has been learned. We may need to be angry with certain people for a while, people who have pushed our tolerance over the edge. That's okay. Soon we can let go of the anger and exchange it for gratitude. These people have been here to help us learn about what we don't want, what we won't tolerate, and how to own our power. Very valuable lessons there, huh? We can thank them for what we've learned. How much are we willing to tolerate? How far shall we let others go with us? How much of our anger and intuition shall we discount? Where are our limits? Do we have any? If we don't, we're in trouble. Absolutely, if you don't have healthy boundaries. There are times not to trust others, but instead trust ourselves and set boundaries with those around us. Absolutely. Good morning. Good morning. We're right now on the language of letting go and setting healthy boundaries, not being naive. So today we will open to new awareness about the areas where we need healthier boundaries. We will forego our naive assumption that the other person is always right. We will exchange that view for trusting ourselves, listening to ourselves, and having and setting healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are a must for protecting yourself and being able to use your inner navigation system. Absolutely. So we're going to move right on to God's little devotional book. Success in marriage. Success in marriage is more than finding the right person. It's becoming the right person because we're working on our half, right? So, 1 Timothy 6:11. But thou, O man of God, flee these things and follow after righteous, godliness, faith, love, patience, and meekness. In Thornton Wilder's play, The Skin of Our Teeth, the character, Miss Antrobus, says to her husband, I didn't marry you because you were perfect. I married you because you gave me a promise. She then takes off her ring, looks at it, saying, that promise made up for your faults, and the promise I gave you made up for mine. Two imperfect people got married, and it was the promise that made the marriage. In every marriage, no matter how well the two people know each other, great mysteries remain. Very often, each person comes to the marriage, not fully knowing himself or herself, not fully knowing about life, and not fully knowing about their spouse, whoever it is. What is unknown is far greater than what is known. Becoming a faithful, loving spouse not only takes courage and faith, but patience and a desire to keep learning and growing. Better than the question, what kind of spouse do I desire to have, is the question, what kind of spouse do I aspire to be? Good morning, good morning. What does that GTSY? I keep seeing people type that, and usually I'll just Google it, but I'm usually in the middle of a reading and forget about it. I don't always do chats and use little short. Oh, good to see you. All right, thank you. I can type so fast. I usually don't do shorthand unless it's LOL or whatever. So thank you for clarifying that, because I just usually Google what the heck something means if I don't know. So October 7th. Today is food day. You can go get food today. So I will realize this is until today. We're talking about our worth in this one. Then we're going to flip back and do our forgiveness one, because that's very important. We will realize our own worth when we accept we are the most valuable thing that we have in life. Absolutely. When something is important to you, always good to see you guys. When something's important to you, you take care of it. You make sure it is protected, nurtured, and that those things required for its maintenance are provided. Whether it is your child, your home, or your vehicle, you consider the person or entity important. You will do your darndest to see that it is taken care of. In those cases where you have assigned a value to the thing you consider important, the stakes are even higher, especially if it's your kid, huh? If it is not true, or your animal or whatever, it is not true that there have been times when you have denied, jeopardized, or put aside your own needs and well-being to provide for those things, whatever they are, you consider to be important and valuable, things or beings. Most of us do it most of the time. And that is exactly why it seems perfectly normal. The destruction of self-worth begins the moment we assign a value to something outside of ourselves. The destruction continues when we accept the responsibility to care for and maintain something that has more value than we do. Being a parent or spouse is not more important than being a whole, healthy being. Being a diligent and responsible worker is not more important than being a peaceful, loving soul. Working hard to provide or take care of material possessions is not more important than taking care of your mind, your body, or your spirit. Anytime you place a value on anything or anyone greater than the value you place on yourself, you are engaging in an unconscious form of suicide. Until today, you may have considered someone or something more important than you. You may have pushed yourself to take care of people and things, believing they were valuable and important aspects of your life. Just for today and again tomorrow, make yourself the most important and valuable aspect of your life. In other words, for the next 2 days, think of you. Do for you. Take care of you first. Self-care is a must. Thank you so much for the likes. Today, we are devoted to caring for the most important and valuable part of our life. Us. Me. It says me. So you. Self-care is of utmost importance. Absolutely it is. It is important to serve and care for others, but not to the extent that you're doing it more than you care for yourself. There's a fine line there. Very, very fine line. If you are exerting all of your energy, taking care of everyone else and meeting all of their needs, that you are neglecting self, and you can sink right into not taking care of your personal hygiene. That's one of the first things that I noticed to go in depression. I don't feel like it. And in the winter when the sun's gone so much and you're stuck indoors, because I hate going out in the snow, I will stay in the house and go out to get like my tobacco and things like that and not leave the house for like a week. So you're got cabin fever, and I'm freezing cold in the winter all the time. I wear like layers and layers and layers of clothes that I hate even getting undressed to get in the shower. I dread it. I'm like, oh, I don't even want to go in there. I don't want to take all my clothes off because I'll be like freezing, and the shower can't be hot enough. And now that I don't, absolutely, we need the sun. And now that I don't have nearly as much fat on our body, and I try to relate it to, and don't take it personally, that when you think of a whale under the water, what keeps a whale warm? Blubber, right? So when you don't have nearly as much fat on your body, you get cold very easily, very easily. So lots of people, if they're overweight, can take that personally, and I'm not. I've weighed 200 pounds before. So it's pretty much a miracle that I can weigh 125 right now. It was self-will and determination, dedication. I had to, and I feel better. But a lot of it was man-made medications. Seroquel, Lamictal, Tramadol. I could go on and on. Zoloft, Cymbalta. I've been on them all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've been on them all. Thorazine. That one makes you freaking break out if you even go in the sun. I got sunburned in like 5 minutes. I said, yeah, I can't be on anything that's going to make me get a sunburn, sun sensitivity. I love the sun. I can't not go in the sun. So take me off of that one. And that one's an icky, nasty one. Anyway, Thorazine. Ooh. So June 7th, we're going to jump back. It doesn't even matter what the date says. It's correlating with today. We're forgiving ourselves. We've been doing it now for today's day 7. Great. Here we all are. Oh, great. 250 what? I don't know what you're talking about. I see 3. I see 3 and 2. You'll have to tell me. I'm going to go ahead and read though. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. Awesome. Awesome. That's great. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you. It takes a lot of dedication to make yourself do that. Absolutely. I'm now willing to forgive myself. So we're now willing to forgive ourselves for believing that there is something wrong with being wrong about some things. Are you afraid of doing things wrong that you won't do anything at all? How many times have you convinced yourself that something is right for you to do, only to allow yourself to be blown off course by someone else who says, that's wrong? Is it possible that you dwell in a past of things wrong to such a degree that you now believe that anything you do will probably go wrong? If you answered yes to one or more of these inquiries, here's another question for you. What's wrong with being wrong? When you take a step in a direction that could ultimately lead you off course, wrong lets you know that you need to change directions. If you choose something or someone that is less than worthy of who you are, wrong lets you know that you need to make another choice. If you decide to take on something that you are really not prepared to handle, wrong lets you know what skills you need to build, what information you need to acquire, what things you can do well, and what things you cannot. When you get right down to it, wrong is life's way of letting you know that what you need to know in order to get right results for your efforts. Now, what's wrong with that? Nothing. It's still our internal guide. We could make a plan, and if it's not in alignment with what our greatest higher good is, our higher power will wreck our plans quickly. If you have a fear of being wrong, go back into your history. Allow yourself to remember the first time you were told you were wrong. Allow yourself to hear the words, feel the feelings, and remember the experience. If you can place yourself in the midst of that experience, forgive yourself for believing that there is something wrong with being wrong. Until today, you may have allowed yourself to believe that if you did the wrong thing, you would not recover. Just for today, take a risk. Do something you fear might be wrong. You may discover that you were wrong about being wrong. Today, we're devoted to forgiving ourselves for believing we could ever do anything wrong. Depression will get it. We relate to it in prison as eating our feelings because we didn't have a drug of choice in there. And so many of the women would eat and eat and eat and eat. They actually started a group about it. Emotional eating, the psychologist, the same psychologist that was there from 2006 and 2013 and 2014. I went right back in 2014 because I went right back to the same neighborhood I was getting high at and in my mom's old neighborhood. So I couldn't go around the same people. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Well, I'm glad we're all doing better now. We're healthier. Because when you lose all that, you feel so much better, don't you? I know I do. I absolutely feel so much better. So this is Inner Peace for Busy People. Strategies for taking care of yourself, part 2. Be a better juggler. I was about to give a talk to a society of businesswomen in Atlanta one winter. One of the organizers took me by the hand and made a heartfelt plea. Please don't talk to us about living in balance. No one does. Even airplanes veer off course during the trip, and they have computers to guide them. Teach us how to be better jugglers. She had a good point. Yes. That's a good 125-pound tie. She had a good point. One of the ubiquitous polls on how Americans live revealed that a mere 2% of us believe that our lives are in balance. The problem is not so much that they aren't, as much as we think they should be. I'll read that as soon as I'm done with this. The belief that there is a way to organize our time so that everything stays in balance can lead to the conclusion that there's something desperately wrong with our unbalanced ways. Perhaps there's your yin yang sign. Perhaps a more livable truth is that we're jugglers rather than tightrope artists. From that perspective, we can accept that some things will always be up in the air. Outer balance isn't always possible. The trick is to keep our eye on the balls and manage their perpetual flight with grace and inner balance. Juggling is a familiar metaphor. The late Yale psychologist and author Daniel Levinson, who wrote about the passages in men's and women's lives, interviewed people at different segments in the life cycle. Many of the 40-something women who both worked and had children commented on the disheartening myth of the superwoman. And guess what I just got yesterday? A Wonder Woman shirt and cape for Halloween. It's got stars all over the cape. So superwoman here. By 40, realized that there is no superwoman. They concluded irritably, who can keep all the demands of life in balance? The best you can do is keep juggling. Almost all of the women plan to do more for themselves in the second half of life than they had in the first. The mistake that many of us make, I think, is waiting until we're 40 to voice that intention. I'm 39. Juggling requires maintaining your center. The idea is to stop managing life so much and begin managing yourself. There we go, talking about manage yourself first. Long ago, I learned that it's much better to prepare the speaker than the speech. Absolutely it is. When I got up and sang in front of the whole prison, joyful, joyful, I rapped and sang in front of the whole prison, not once, but twice. They pumped me up because I could have easily talked myself into fainting like I did in the 8th grade. Well, I'm so glad you're doing better right now. We got past that. That's a terrible thing to be afflicted with. That's even what Kesha was struggling with, anorexia type stuff. Yes, I understand that. It's yes, that too is a very big struggle when you don't like yourself. But since it's a good thing we're learning to love ourselves, huh? Long ago, I learned it's much better to prepare the speaker than the speech, particularly when I'm well acquainted with the subject matter. If I meticulously outline a lecture, rehearsing the points as I get ready to begin, I'm likely to lose my center. But if I chat with the audience first, I put myself at ease, or take a few minutes for some deep breathing, the talk goes more smoothly. When I'm centered, it's easier to respond to people, to catch the nuances of their attention, and let the inspiration flow through me. Thinking of myself as an instrument that life plays, rather than the source of the melody, has helped me to be a better juggler. The instrument needs to be cleaned and polished, treated with care. When I'm in balance, the unbalanced hodgepodge of things on the to-do list are accomplished more effectively. After my speech in Atlanta, there was a panel discussion. 3 women took us through their average workday. The youngest, single and without children, was already a busy professional with little time for herself. A 30-something mother of 3 with an infant, a toddler, and a 6-year-old spoke next. Ooh, she's juggling a lot. Her career was even more demanding than that of the younger woman. But with the help of her husband and a nanny, she kept her balls in the air with a lot of humor and a tremendous zest for life. The third panelist was a single mother of 2. Aside from parenting and work, her biggest priority was her church, in which she was very active. Those activities rejuvenated her and gave her inner strength to keep the other balls in the air. The youngest woman asked how she could cope with perception that, single and childless, she could do more at work than colleagues with relationships or families. As a group, we concluded that you have to honor your priorities at every stage of life. If going to choir practice or yoga class keeps you happy, why is it any less important than getting home to be with your family? Learn to set boundaries. Here's our boundaries again. The other women counseled her. You have to realize you're worth it. You have to realize you're worth it. You're entitled to create a life for yourself. We all have to carve out time for the meaningful things that help us stay centered. I've noticed the tendency in many people to cut out just those types of activities in the name of simplicity and balance. But if you don't take care of yourself, no one will do it for you. Without boundaries, work will expand to take up as much time as you have. It's up to you to choose those things that keep you centered, even when they appear to make life busier. And for busy, busy moms, sometimes you have to get up before everyone. Yes, Georgia. Yes, you have to sometimes get up before the kids, before the husband, before life gets too busy. You have to take that moment before everyone. I started getting up at 4 a.m. in prison so that I could do that stuff without having the 80 women or even the 3 in my room distracting me from the things that helped me. For me to do my meditations and my devotion, I got up way before everyone else. And most of the people who got up at 4 and went to breakfast came right back and went right back to bed, went and got their bellies full and then slept. So it was important to me. Texas, we don't mess with Texas, do we? Not at all. So let me finish this little paragraph real quick. This week, review your priorities. If self-care is not one of them, think of an activity that you would really enjoy and add it to your to-do list. This may seem like it will make you even busier, but the truth is that it will actually generate more productive time. Feeding your soul with the things you love creates happiness and gives you energy. Taking the time to enjoy life is one of the most important secrets of busy people with inner peace. Absolutely. Ha. All my exes live in Texas, huh? Yeah. It is so traumatic. I'm sorry you went through that, Andrea. Ooh, and steroids. Oh, yes, they're brutal. I was on that depot shot after I had my baby. And boy, my aunt's gained so much weight from steroids. She's got Crohn's disease. She's got lupus. She's on so many pills. And then she hurt her ankle and they didn't even help her. And it turns out her freaking leg was broken for like a month. Oops. For like a month. And she's really, really struggling. Oh, gosh. Something happened here to scroll. Yes. All right. So our renewing truth for God is I am is we are sheep of his pasture, her pasture, the divine's pasture. Or maybe they're talking about Jesus's pasture, Christ. Because we don't even know if Jesus or Yahshua or whatever. We'll just go with Christ. The renewing scripture is, oh yeah, I bet you are. I bet you are. I wouldn't take any more. I really am against their stuff. I have to let them know that when I walk in and they say, well, you're in a medical office. And I'm like, I'm very well aware of that. I'm working on finding all my medicinal healers that are not in the medical profession, that work with things that were here way before the doctors. So our renewing scripture is Psalm 103, not 103, 100, verse 3. Know that the Lord, he is God, he who has made us and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Oh, I bet. I got to stay tuned into what's going on in different places because it's that deep earthquake in Oklahoma, 210 kilometers that Terrell Blackstar posted, and his stuff doesn't pop up in my newsfeed always. That one popped up late last night, and I was like, what? I said, oh, I'm trying to relax and go to bed, so I had to watch it this morning. Absolutely, because I was right there in Oklahoma. Ain't too far from me. I'm not scared about it, but I have to be aware of this stuff, absolutely, because there are volcanoes everywhere. And that earthquake was not caused from fracking at all. That fracking mess. The Lord is God. He made you and you are his. You belong with no other. As such, he is your shepherd, provider, protector, and guide, a close friend and comfort. What then does a good shepherd do? He lays down his life for his sheep. But since we're focusing on and not putting others first. What did Jesus do? What did the disciples do after serving others all day? They went out into the wilderness, or they'd go out on a boat, and they would have their own time. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. I do the same thing with my dog. He jerks my phone all over. Yeah, I had a video happen with that when I was trying to record the moon. No worries. We are his sheep. We hear his voice. He calls us by name and leads us out. When he brings us, he goes before us, and we follow him, for we know his voice. We will by no means follow a stranger, but flee from every other voice. This is our safety, remaining in earshot of the Good Shepherd. He is our shepherd, and we belong in his pasture. He has appointed our days and the boundaries of our dwellings. He has prepared a place and a time for us. Are we remaining in the pasture of our divine Creator? Are we abiding close by? It is when we wander from the fields and away from his voice that we find ourselves out of the shelter of his protection, when we go off wandering on our own. To be a sheep is to trust the shepherd. Sheep don't fight their own battles. They can barely find their own food. They are dependent creatures. Sheep are happiest when they can rely on their shepherd. Are you a sheep? Do you rely on the shepherd for your provision and protection and guidance? Choose today to remain content in the pasture of the Good Shepherd. His grass is greener, his water is sweeter. Joy is ours when we remain close enough to hear his voice when he calls. So Robert Morris said in our renewing inspiration, you were created in the image of a speaking higher power. Thank you so much for the likes. We got 3 and 3. And he created you with the ability to hear him, that inner voice inside. But it can come from everywhere. Hello, good morning, Mike. Because he says very clearly, I am the Good Shepherd, and my sheep hear my voice. So beautiful. Yes, you have to search for that inner voice. And once you're tuned in to that divine guidance, it comes from everywhere. Like I click on Pandora and I go, and the songs that pop up are just amazing. And it could be on Tesla's love song channel that I've created or whatever. I've got a WhatsApp channel by the 4 Non-Blondes. And so Time After Time came on by Cyndi Lauper yesterday. And so we're going to be there for each other. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. So we'll be here. All of us are here for each other. How beautiful. Oh my gosh. Monday, October 7th. The big bold headline right there. God's heart for hypocrites. October 7th. I'd be very disappointed if one of our team members did that, said a cricket player, referring to South American cricketer who cheated in a match in 2016. But only 2 years later, the same player was caught in a nearly identical scandal. Few things rankle us more than hypocrisy. But in the story of Judah in Genesis 38, Judah's hypocritical behavior nearly had deadly consequences. After 2 of his sons died soon after marrying Tamar, Judah had quietly abandoned his duty to provide for her needs. In desperation, Tamar disguised herself by wearing a prostitute's veil, and Judah slept with her. Yet when Judah learned that his widowed daughter-in-law was pregnant, his reaction was murderous. Bring her out and have her burned to death, he demanded. But Tamar had proof that Judah wasn't the father. Judah would have denied the truth. No, Judah could have denied the truth. Instead, he admitted his hypocrisy and also accepted his responsibility to care for her, saying, she is more righteous than I. That is a good song, isn't it? It just popped on. And I love how the songs always resonate. And I listen closely to the words, even more closely than I ever used to. So even God wove even this dark chapter of Judah and Tamar's story into his story of our redemption. Tamar's children would become ancestors of Christ. Matthew 1, 2, and 3. Why is Genesis 38 in the Bible? One reason is because it's the story of our hypocritical human hearts and of God's heart of love, grace, and mercy. Thank you, Tim Gustafson. So it's Genesis 38:26 that he said, she is more righteous than I. How do you react when you become aware of your hypocrisy? What would happen if we all became truly transparent with each other? If we could say, oh my gosh, like when I see myself saying and doing, like when I took a parenting class, there was a mother smoking cigarettes in the garage and peeking her head around the corner telling the children not to smoke. My mother used to do the same thing. Don't you smoke, it's bad for you, while she's smoking cigarettes or weed, because my parents smoke. They have all my life. And so it was hypocritical to me. So when I was 16 and started smoking weed, she was like, you can't smoke until you're 18. Or I couldn't smoke cigarettes. I didn't start until I was 18, so you can't. I said, do you really think that I'm going to do everything at the rate you did them? Do you really, like, what is going? And it really created a lot of inner conflict and turmoil for me. So now it's aware to me and easier for me to point out those things. I feel really special that you listen to me while you're walking your dog, Andrea. We must be really doing some good work here, huh? That makes me feel good. I'm glad it's helping you enough to do it while you're walking your dog. That's beautiful. So help us to see, O divine creator, that the heart of the matter is we're all hypocrites who need your forgiveness. Yes, all of us. I got to find which scripture it is that says there is not one righteous. No, not one. I'm really thinking it's in Romans. I'm not sure. I wrote it in the 5-page grievance that I wrote on the chaplain in prison. And it was very eloquently written. Absolutely it was. She made my prison stay and getting into Bible studies and stuff like that, she made it a living hell, considering I didn't even do anything wrong except for go to Catholic Mass. I love you. We love you too. So October 7th, choose liberty. You were washed, clean, purified by a complete atonement for sin, and made free from the guilt of sin, whatever it is that you did that made you feel bad about yourself. So whatever that is. I don't particularly care for that word, but it's one that people know. And you were consecrated, set apart and hallowed, and you were justified, pronounced righteous by trusting in the name of Christ and in the Holy Spirit of our God. 1 Corinthians 6:11. So as a believer, you are free to do anything you please. All things are legitimate, permissible, and we are free to do anything we please, but not all things are helpful, expedient, profitable, and wholesome. That's 1 Corinthians 10:23. So our Creator trusts you with liberty because we've also been given a new heart and desire to please the Creator. You don't have to struggle against immorality and sin when you allow the Creator to fill you with His Spirit each day. As a born-again, Spirit-filled believer, you have been given the liberty to lead a good life. Choose today what is wholesome, edifying, and constructive. Beautiful. But we're given that Spirit at birth. This really is striking me as all the corruption behind it, that it was distorted and made to believe that you have to be baptized in order to have the Spirit. Because when you really think about it, all the writers of the Bible from before Christ came, right? The Old Testament, everything from Genesis to Malachi, were writing with the Spirit, right? So for them to twist that, the Vatican, and started, because we know it's them that started baptizing the babies, or it could have even come in the Hebrew, and the Jewish were using it. We really don't know for a fact, but you do not have to be baptized. You are absolutely born with the Spirit of the divine right in you. It is our consciousness. You're born with it. It's the same type of consciousness that when you're 3 years old and you got your hand in the cookie jar and your mother says, "What are you doing?" It strikes you, right? We're born with that. There's no denying that. Oh, yes. Teaching her why instead of just do it. Yes. And that's good. That's absolutely good. I kept options open for the use of like feminine hygiene products and stuff for my kid. That is totally awesome. Yes, breaking that, because my mom was very hypocritical about a lot of things and it created so much confusion in me. And until I was in my 20s and then later in my 30s back in prison and took parenting, I took teen parenting, and I learned all of the unhealthy things that my own family had put on me and created so much confusion. So now it's interesting to me. Hello, good morning, and welcome. It's very interesting to me now that, oh, well, that's good too. Maybe she just decided that's not what she needs or wants. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. But it really, and it's great that you did that way, because it created such inner conflict and inner turmoil in me, such confusion. It was confusion. Like, don't smoke pot, that we're smoking pot and it's bad for you. And it really could mess me up. And consistency is one very important factor in parenting. Because when my mom would say no, I couldn't do something, usually if I hounded her enough, she would let me go. And my mom ran the household, not my father. So when my dad, he was an irresponsible alcoholic. So he would make a decision and get yelled at for it if I said, "Dad, can I go here? Can I stay the night?" And he would say, he got to the point when he'd get yelled at it for it later, "Go ask your mother." It was always, so that creates an inner conflict with me when I try to get with a man who tries to control me. I said, "Well, I don't know who ran your household, but my mom ran mine. And I'm not taking orders. I'm not taking orders. Like, we're going to either talk about the decisions that are made." And so it didn't work out. I don't even know how I got to stay with a man for 9 years that would try to tell me, and I didn't have a say in things, and absolutely not. Just like having a dad that cheated on my mom made me insecure about men, made me insecure, thought that they were all going to cheat on me. So those things are very important, that when you see and witness what doesn't feel right as a child, that shapes you into who you are, the hypocrisy, the confusion that's setting in, and the examples that we're showing our children. Excuse me, I know people that stay together for the kids. They're teaching the kids, whether you're staying together, if you are not having a happy marriage and your marriage is not harmonious in front of your children, and you're not leading a good example of what a happy marriage should be, where you're getting along and you're going out of your way to help each other around the house and do the things. Most of the time, the men go out and work and bring home the money, and the women too are still working. But the men, like in my house, my mom does all the laundry, all the vacuuming, I help her with a lot of that stuff. She does her laundry, but dishes, everything that has to go on in the house. And the men, like my dad, works on the car. Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for the likes. Works on the car, mows the yard, does the garage stuff, all of that. So people are working and then working when they come home and they don't have that balance. And they're either taking it out on their kids or they're taking it out on their spouse or their significant other. And they go back to work and bring their workload home with them, their work energy. When my mom has a bad day at work, he should come home and take it out on. She doesn't take it out on the work people. So if she's had a bad day, I avoid that stuff. So I do whatever I can to help my mother out here. And I helped my dad when we cut down brush and stuff like that. I just go out and say what all can be. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So your mom got put in charge too. Your mom got put in charge too. My mom, no, my mom used to sick my dad on me. She would say, "Would you go get your child?" And oh, mom, yeah, my dad couldn't make sound decisions because he was drinking. He was drinking. And so whenever I was bad, I was his child. And whenever I needed discipline, it wasn't just go to your room, it was with a belt. And I would instigate and antagonize it even more by didn't hurt. And then I would get brutally, it would get brutal. It would get brutal. But I antagonized it. I instigated even more of a beating. It almost became a game. I'd run through the house and jump on the bed and get between the wall of the bunk bed on the top bunk because that was mine. It became to the point where I would fight with them to the point that they would kick me out of the house. And that's what happened at 16 after my grandfather killed himself. I just said, I've had enough. It rocked my whole family. And that was absolutely just a really icky feeling. So if you guys missed what was going on in the beginning, if you just came in, go back and listen to the devotionals if you like learning about that stuff. I am going to take a break. Oh, yeah, my little kid. And see, because I was brought up that way, when I had my child, I was taught that spanking was okay. When my kid would laugh at me, and I'm talking run through the house and lay on her bed, stiff as a board with her hands over her butt, just giggling and laughing at me, it created such irritation in me that I was like, you are not supposed to be laughing. And I finally, it was making me so angry that I was getting the opposite result and thought it was hilarious that I was trying to spank you. I had to say, this isn't working and walk away. And I never ever laid a hand on my kid after that. And I would stick her in the corner. I would tell her that she had to put her nose in the corner. Because if you're laughing and giggling at me and you keep turning around to look at me, it's not, your punishment isn't working. And that was even before I took parenting classes. But it was about, I said, and every time you take your nose out of the corner, you have to stay there for 1 minute longer. And I learned that your kids should be in the corner 1 minute for every year that they are. And I started taking important things. Oh, wow, that's too bad. That's a shame. That's a shame. That really is. I started failing I didn't fail, but I stayed right on the CD line. CD line. I'm sorry that happened. See, our parents can be very stubborn and make us feel really icky inside. So it's a good thing we're healing all our childhood wounds and we're all working on this together and getting better. I'm so sorry for everything that everybody went through, the things that made us feel so icky that we didn't like ourselves. And we suffered greatly because of that. It created much confusion inside of us, much. And so now that we know, and now that we're learning, and now that we're healing, right. Now that we're healing, we can move forward. You're not going to forget all these things, obviously, right? They're there and they hurt you for a reason, to shape you and to make you who you are. So now we can all use all of our experiences to help others along the way through their beautiful transformation. And then we teach each other and learn with each other and build each other up now. And so being empathetic, not empathy and sympathy are very different. Lots of people say, oh, I don't have any sympathy for them or whatever. And I said, it's not about sympathy. It's not about pity. It's about having empathy for, compassion, and being able to relate anything in your life with mine. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a scar for everything. I have two brutal scars, one from being jumped at a bar. Jumped at a bar, and I had a concussion, blacked out, whacked my head on the stove, and then later, same eye right there, I have a scar. My hairs won't even grow there. A man threw a phone at me so hard, busted my face straight open, just started bleeding. I had to get that glue and some stitches put in there. No, the stitches were from when I cracked my head on the stove during the concussion. So I got jumped at a bar after somebody had started a fight. And I am not a fight starter. I go there, have a good time, play pool, dance, drink, and I would leave. This was years ago. But all of that stuff is very traumatic and shapes us. That's good. See, and we have to weigh the good and the bad. We have to look at the good side. My dad is very, very capable. He can build just about anything. He just built his workbenches in his garage, got the fence all put up. It's beautiful. He's an amazing builder, amazing provider. He's always worked, always been able to bring home the money, always been able to take care of us financially, materially. We've never had to go completely without anything, not at all. Were there times we didn't have the best meals? Absolutely. When I was younger, when they were young and they were struggling. But emotionally, I have to balance the things, and I have to look at it that way, because I used to look at the black and white. There was no gray area. It was like I could see the depreciation room that we talked about the other day. So I will be back here after a little bit. I'm going to go take a break and center myself. And I woke up a little late this morning. My kid is gone. I could tell that my kid was leaving last night because I heard the front door slam after we all went to bed. You could hear stomping down the stairs. There's not even consideration to go down quietly and lightly, but I heard the front door open and close. Back up the stairs. Must have forgot something. Gone. So all I can do is pray. You can't control them, right? Oh, wow. Wow. So dad had to be mom too. So it's interesting that the roles we have to take on, because even I know somebody who the mother has to do all the handyman work because the dad doesn't know how to even run a cordless drill or do stuff like that. And that type of stuff kind of blows my mind. My grandma is very capable and does all that stuff, but she didn't have a man. So she just learned to do absolutely by choice. Yes, that's good. That's good that he could step up and do that. Or it could have been a very, very different type of bringing up, right? So I'm going to take a break, and I will be back to do One Day My Soul Just Opened Up. We're going to do Stages of Time again later, because that was a truly amazing book. If you guys didn't get that one, if you weren't here for that, I suggest you go back and watch it, because Stages of Time is truly going to be amazing. The first chapter helped us all so much. So I will be back. You guys have a beautiful time away. We're going to be ending it right about 9/11. So it's a time to heal. We will talk to you all soon. I love you all so much. I send you abundant love and healing light right here from my home in Illinois to yours. So we'll see you again soon. I love you all so much. And thank you so much for all your likes. Thank you so much for your support, because you surely helped me.